Hello everybody, today I'll be doing a little bit of market recognition, and this is by Preston Giles. So take you through a little bit of an intro, some background, more info on the problem, some conclusions, and that'll be it. So again, Preston Giles, a Full Sail University, currently in the Patterns and Recognition course, and today's date. So a little bit of background, my employer needs someone who can get financial data and get it efficiently. The data has to be scraped from a web page, as I have no money to allocate to this project, and I need to make a recommendation on this stock, buy, sell, or hold. And the company I'll be using is DNB, and I need to forecast future stock price and put together a complete picture of DNB's market performance. So the problem, I need to find the data. I also need to perform, some correlation analysis, identify any whale tracks, any support or resistant levels, create some Bollinger Bands, and ultimately need to come up with a recommendation on the stock. And then, will the stock price be going up or down soon is part of that as well. So determining the data needed, so I need at least 4 quarters of financial data with relevant attributes, and then historical stock data, as well as from a reliable source, and for this source we use NASDAQ. So here we have the data, and this is the raw data. So I've done some calculations on this, but you can kind of see on the left hand side there the Bollinger Bands that I created from the open close and days listed, and then you can see the cash flow here on the right, just essentially giving a brief snapshot, for the past 4 quarters. So in the correlation analysis, you can see on average, the average open has actually been a little bit above the average close, and that gap seems to be getting a bit wider as we move into 2021. In regards to whale tracks, as you can see, coming into June, we have a pretty significant jump, and this would be related to a buy. And so essentially, once that stock price hit 21, there was a pretty significant whale investment, if you were, and essentially jumped that stock price up to almost 26 there, and has been on the rise since, and probably looking for a sale soon. Support and resistance levels. So in 2020, support levels close to 25 stock price before they hit that buy period, and then the resistant level is pretty much right around 28, where it starts to go back down. And then 2021, support levels pretty much non-existent, and what this means is that the stock's just not doing very well, and so the resistant level is actually close to 25, and that's just the max stock price that they've seen, and it's been going down since. Bollinger Bands. So this is a little bit of more information, but essentially there is very little movement throughout the year, and the closing price typically falls on the lower end in terms of performance. And as you can see, right around June, they started getting a little bit tighter, and then they had that pretty significant jump. And then if you look towards December, they're starting to get a little bit tighter there as well. So they might be ready for a jump here soon. Balance sheet analysis. So basically the average of accounts payable versus the cash and cash flow equivalents. What you can basically see here is that in 2021, they basically are running out of cash, and so, but their accounts payable is just continuously skyrocketing. And then as well on the right here, you can see the long-term debt is actually increasing pretty significantly, versus their cash and cash equivalents. The cash equivalent is roughly around 35,000, but long-term debt they're upping near almost 0.8 million. So balance sheet conclusions, again, accounts payable is pretty much overshadowing the amount of cash on hand, and long-term debt seems to be increasing significantly with no real stop in the plans here. Cash flow analysis. So essentially, their net borrowing versus their net cash flow here on the left-hand side. As you can see, their average borrowing is pretty much going up to roughly 0.3 million versus their cash flow, which is actually going more into the negative side of things. So they're losing money right now, but borrowing to kind of compensate for that. And net income versus net borrowing on the right hand side here, just to give you a little bit bigger picture as far as just income in general. And so as you can see, their income levels are actually on the rise, but their borrowing is still needed in order to get out of that negative cash flow. So again, negative cash flow is being substituted with a significant increase in borrowing, and then income is on a very slow rise, but D&B is still operating at a deficit currently. So as far as the stock analysis goes, essentially what I've stated earlier, the stock has not been doing significantly well, but as you can see in June they had that little bit of a whale buy, and it rose it up a little bit, but it has been on a decline ever since, and has been closing on average about 1 to 2 points lower than open. So stock conclusions, as a recently public company, D&B has a trend of closing below market expectations, and recently they've been experiencing a decrease in stock price, and I think that's due to operating at a deficit with probably a low confidence of future profit there. So for the big one, buy, sell, or hold. Essentially, coming into this, what you can see is I did a little bit more on the Bollinger Bands here. So currently, and this is from May, you can see right here on the right hand side that little red circle. Essentially it just shows everything kind of coming together. So what this means is that this stock is pretty much it's ready to jump, and that could be down or up. I would say with the increase in borrowing and net income on the rise, I would recommend a buy on this stock, just simply from the stock price it's currently at. And with any rise, you could probably see roughly $8 to $9 on the rise. So depending on how much you put in there, could end up making quite a bit. References, so my own analysis for Power BI, and then NASDAQ as discussed earlier. And that is the end. I hope you enjoyed.